So what do I have open? Microsoft Word. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing an activity together where I'm going to teach you some stuff, and then you're going to do an assignment on your own. Now, yesterday, I went through and talked about one of the things about doing our computer assignments here is you're going to be saving them to your H drive. Okay? The H drive is like your folder that you keep in your backpack or in your locker. And then when you're done with your H drive, you are then going to turn it into this other folder where I'm going to grade it from. Just like I said, I wouldn't go into your backpack to get your work out of your folder. You would turn it into a basket. You need to turn in the electronic copy of your document to that assignment submit folder, and I will show you where to do that. Now, I am purposely having you turn it in electronically instead of printing it out, so I can see how you are using the software. Because I have students that will say, oh, this needs to be centered, and you know what they do? Hold down the space bar until it looks about center. Or they use spaces instead of tabs, when in really what we're trying to learn is how to do the tab feature. Set left tab, set a right tab, set a decimal tab, set a dot leader tab. And so when you turn it in electronically, I can actually see the file. So that's why we do that. And that's what we're doing on our in-person days. On our virtual days, you're using Test Out. And that's one thing you know every week for me is all you're doing is spending your Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays for this group is working on Test Out. Complete your task, mark it off on your Test Out tracker. I go through weekly, update it. If you're not up to date, then I put in the zeros. But please remember to put X's on there as my notification of you think you have it done. Because if you don't, then I will give you a comment saying, hey, you're missing 4.2.3 or whatever one you might be missing. So I try to let you know that you need to go from there. Also in Test Out, your minimum score that you need to have has got to be 70%. So if you complete a lab and you got like a 55%, you should redo it so you get a 70 or higher, because I won't enter in a score for that until it's above that number. Sound good? So today's activity that we're going to do is going to be one of our intro ones where we're going to be working with our fonts, our alignments, and different types of styles that we can do for characters within Microsoft Word. So spin around. You're going to look here. I want to have my instructions a little bit to make sure I do not miss a set. So right now I have my zoom set in bigger, but I can zoom out tiny or zoom in bigger. I'm just going to have it a little bit bigger so you can read the text that I have. Does anyone know what I just did? Hopefully Max will figure this one out. What's that? What's up there? Words. No, look what I have up there. What is it? Nope. Look at the actual words. They are describing words. They're purposely in that order. Yes, Logan. See, Max, I was hoping you'd get that one. See, the first letter on each one of those words spells Katie, which is my first name. So you are going to be doing something for yours that you are going to use your name. So I'm doing mine as an example, okay? So what I have done, each line has one word, and the word starts with a letter in my name. So again, my first name is Katie, so you're going to see that up there. Now, I also capitalize the first letter on each one of these. That is also important. It is part of the directions. Now, what you are going to end up doing is you want to change the font size of the first letter to something bigger than the rest. Why would we do that? Yep. So I have two options. I can click right here and choose from the drop-down menu and go to a font size. The other thing that I could do is I could actually go ahead and click right here, and this is a font increase size instead of choosing the drop-down menu. So you have two options for changing that. So I'm going to go through and change the first letter in my first name. You have to do first and last, but I'm just going to demo my first name for right now. So does that make Katie stand out even more than before? Yes, for sure. Now, the letter of my name needs to be a different color also. So I just went through and did my font size, and now I'm going to do color. Could I have done them both at the same time? Yes. So right here is going to be my option for my font color. These colors are available to me by standard, but I also can go under more colors, and you can choose like any type of custom color at all that you would like. It does not matter. Okay, so I'm going to make my first letter a different color. I also need to make sure that my font for all of my letters is something other than Calibri or Times New Roman. You don't have to do a different font for the first letter, but I'm going to go through. You're going to find that there are lots of fun fonts. I'm going to choose Harrington. So I would go through right here and I would set the A to a different font color. So we're just going through and using a lot of our different, no, you're doing your first and your last. Okay, so here I have that set up. I have a different font. You also are going to need to go through and set 4 lines to include bold, italics, or underline. So I could make this one bold, and this is my feature for bold. I could set this one to italics. This one I could set bold. I kind of like that bold. And then I could set this one to underline. So out of your whole entire name, you need to have a bold, italics, and underline. Like you need to, there are 3 options, but you need to use it 4 times in there. So I chose to do 2 bolds, 1 italics, and 1 underline. The other thing that we need to do is I need to center this on my page. We know from my previous discussion is that we are not going to use the space bar to center. That is not an effective use of our time. So what we will do is I'm actually going to highlight my whole entire document. Logan, what's my keyboard shortcut for that? Yes, Control A highlights my whole document. Sam, wham, that's amazing. Now I want to show you something else. Hang on. I'm just adding more text on my page so we have more. Now, we know Control A highlights my whole entire document. Whether or not my document is 3 lines or if it's 17 pages, Control A does it all. Amazing, wonderful feature. So I could then click on center and it would do everything. But the point of me copying and pasting this text over again is I want to show you about your selection tool over here on the left-hand side. You will notice when I take my mouse and put it over the text, I have an I bar. Do you see how it looks like an I? Now, when I move over here to my left margin, my cursor changes from an I bar to a white pointer arrow that points to the right. This is a selection tool. So what I can do is I'm going to use this line as an example. I'm going to click once with this arrow. Notice what did it do? It selected the one line. Now I'm going to click off. I'm going to click twice. Sorry, bad example. When I clicked twice, what did it do? It selected a paragraph. Now, another shortcut for selecting entire documents, I can go over here in Word and click 3 times. It will do the whole document, whether or not it's 1 page or 17 pages. So that is a good thing. So you can also use, over here, use your white arrow and click and drag. if I only wanted to do this portion. That is easier than clicking and dragging through. I find using my white selection bar and going over here will make it much easier to select some of that text. The other thing that I want to show you is I'm going to put my cursor right here in the middle of everyone. Now, if I was typing and I needed to move my cursor, oftentimes you would take your hand and take it off and go to the mouse. But I want to point out that you can use your arrow key. Now, I know I can go arrow, 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 but that's like way slow. You can use the control and your arrow, and you can move over. Do you see how that moves me? How far? One word. So I can move me word for word. So that's very helpful. Give me 1 second. So I like to use my control and my arrow to move word by word. It's a lot faster when I don't want to take my hands over to my mouse. And again, I love using my selection tool arrow for highlighting and selecting. Again, remember, 1 click does a line, 2 clicks does a paragraph, 3 clicks does the whole entire document. So now I'm going to delete all of my extra stuff. Oops. Except I got rid of my E. Now, here's the fastest way that I'm going to get everything back on the same line, on different lines. I'm going to use my control, and then I can use my end over. So the end key, do you know what that does? No, end, the END will actually take me to the end of the line. Okay? So I would go through and do that. So I have now just my Katie name. I'm going to select all. I'm going to triple click here, maybe. And then I'm going to click right here on center. So here's my first name. I have set my font color to something different, my font size for my first letter, and then colors. Now the other thing, you are going to do this to your last name. I don't have my last name up, but when you follow the direction, you go from there. We're going to go through and use something called text effects. Now, Microsoft Word has some really cool features for text effects that you're going to find right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight talkative. Again, you're going to do this to your last name, but I'm just going to show you what I have in my first name. Under text effects, you can go right here. And then, for example, you can have like an outline, or you can have a shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a shadow inside top left. That one did not show up as cool as another one. Let me do a glow. Glow works really well. Isn't that cool? Now, depending on what you have selected, you can actually go ahead and do this too. Notice it will give you just a different. This one has a reflection. Do you notice under initializer, under the eye, you can see the actual text is like shadowed down below. And those are some preset ones. So on your last name, you have to add a text effect to your whole last name. So that way your first name and your last name would be set apart. But again, I think this is a nice pre-built feature that's built in here. So you can have all of these. And notice that it will change your color. It'll automatically space it this way. So now notice that I have to now go back and actually change my font color for my first letter to something different. Does that make sense? So in Microsoft Word, when I type a word and hit enter, it automatically does that spacing for me. It has spacing before and after a paragraph. We'll learn about changing that a little bit different. Now, the other thing that you need to do is you need to save your work in Microsoft Word. By default, it doesn't save like Google. So if you go to lunch and then something happens and your computer crashes at lunch, it's going to when you come back, you're going to lose all your work. That's a bad thing. You don't like that. That will make you angry. And I will look at you and say, yeah, sorry, sucks, but you still got to do it. You got to redo your work. So up here on our quick access toolbar, which is right up here in the very top, you have a save button. But has this document ever been saved? How do you know? Right here, what does it say? Document 2. If it's been saved, obviously you would never call something document 2. That does make not any sense to me. So the first time I save it, I'm going to do File, Save As, and I will walk you through this. And then I'm going to go ahead and browse. Remember when we used our folder here and then we created a folder for information processing? I have a lot of folders. So then right here, I'm going to go ahead and call it Grassel, Katie, describe yourself. Now, we put last name, first name on there. Why? It's true. But here's what happens for your teacher, and this is important. I want to explain it to you. When you do last name, then first name, it'll automatically sort it in alphabetical order that will match the grade book, so it makes it easier for me grading, honestly. And if a teacher is less crabby grading, it's probably easier to grade. Nope. We're only at noon. We got time yet, but thank you for double checking. So going through and putting your name on it, also, I want to know whose file it is before I open it up. So you always make sure you put your name on it. In Google, when you create a document or create a file within Classroom, it automatically adds your name to it. So I'm going to go through and save that right here. Now, did I turn that in? No, all I did is it's like I'm in class. I worked on this worksheet. The bell rang, and I put it in my folder. I left class. I still have not turned it in to my teacher. Okay, so what you have to do to turn it into your teacher is you are going to use your network drive information. So you're going to go under Students Shared. You're going to go to SHS, because that's what class you're in. And then what are we doing? Turning in an assignment, right? Under Assignment Submit. And then, are you doing English or are you doing Grassel? Grassel! Then under there, well, what class are we in? Information Processing, right? So you'll double click there. Now within that Information Processing folder, I have different folders for different assignments. The first assignment we're doing is called Describe Yourself. See that folder called Describe Yourself? I'm really trying to make it easy. So you're going to go ahead and double click, and I can see these different files, but you can't see other students' files. So what I tend to do is I'm going to have two folders open. Hang on. And you can only do this when you are here at school. You cannot do this at home on a Chromebook. So this folder on the left-hand side is going to be, this window I should say, is going to be where I'm working. I think I just chose the wrong folder. That's what I get for having too many folders. So this right here is my H drive where I'm working on it. So here's the one that I just did. It says, Grassel Katie, describe yourself. So I will do this to turn it in. I literally made a copy of it over here. Sound good? Then the other thing that you have to do to turn in your work is I am always going to give you a grading rubric for every assignment. What is a rubric? You're right. You're right on it. It will show you. Yeah, and how many points it is, right? So I'm going to give this to you. So I am not going to go every day and look in the folder and say, ooh, Logan, did you turn it in? Lincoln, do you have yours in? Josh, is it in? No, I have more important things to do with my time than check the folder every hour to see if you turned in work. So I will grade your work when you turn this rubric into the basket. I will grab it out and I'll be like, oh, Lincoln has a Describe Yourself done. I'm going to grade that. So you have a couple things that you have to do for me to grade your work. Number one, the electronic file has to go in that Assignment Submit folder, and we're going to create a shortcut for you on the desktop to help you with that. And then number two, the grading rubric needs to be put in the basket because that's you telling me, grade my work, Grassel, I got her done. I'm waiting for you to give me that A I deserve because I'm awesome. Sound good?